Yes, good morning. We're still here at the stadium as people continue to trickle in and make their ways to the grandstand. As Tabiso indicated earlier on, that they expect around 20,000 people to be here at today's celebration, as we expect President Cyril Ramaphosa to deliver the keynote address. Of course, it will be a very interesting event and a speech to look forward to, because this is the first time that Cyril Ramaphosa, as the Commander-in-Chief, will be delivering a keynote address on Freedom Day. And as I was saying, that it will be quite interesting to hear what the President has to say about personal anecdotes, about the moments leading up to the 27th of April back in 1994, and even the years leading up to that moment, all the discussions that were taking place, behind closed doors, and some turned even violent. And the days leading up to the election of 1994, very, very important, but also quite reminiscent of what the violence that took place at the time. And the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a commission set up by former President Nelson Mandela to look into some of these atrocities that were committed during apartheid leading up to 1994. And Tumisho Mashaba has put together this insert that looks into some of those anecdotes as well as some of those testimonies. But quite importantly, though, he asked the question, what about those who did not get an opportunity to share their stories about the atrocities that they faced at the time? Just take a listen.
Many victims and survivors of apartheid human rights violations are calling on the South African government to reopen the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or TRC. They believe this will help them to access the 1 billion rand sitting in the President's Fund, designated by the TRC to help victims of apartheid rebuild their shattered lives.
Government abusetse TRC o etswetse santsene go le eli santsene go na le dikgobalo tse dintsi tse di tsagetseng.
Sifuna ulungiswa ngoba sizikolokolo sifuna ukhenengwa inhliziyo nomzimba yethu nengqondo zethu.
Commissioner nnete le poelano, challenge number 1 phephetso ya teng e ile ya eba le nako e nyane ho etsa mosebetsi wa yona.
South Africans are slowly healing from the wounds inflicted during the violent era of apartheid rule. Political violence was widespread in South Africa leading up to the 1994 elections. But in Thokoza and the adjoining townships of Katlehong and Vosloorus, the situation had reached civil war proportions. It was characterized by conflicts between township and hostel residents and train and taxi violence, which resulted in an unprecedented number of deaths and injuries.
Ngo-92 nashonelwa ngumntwana apha eNatala Street emfuleni Natala Street ke-28 kaFebruary edutyulwa ngamabhulu ayenxibe impahla ezibhanyabhanya ndazi uba kuthiwa yintoni na. Ndithe ke ngokudutyulwa kwakhe lo mntwana ndawo kwakusekuseni ngabo-10 bona nangu kukhalisa ibhamu zawutsho ke ngoku lapho kube kudutyulelwa khona abantwana kudutyulwa khona awujonga lo mntwana. Xa ndimjonga lo mntwana ndibene nala mabhulu aneempahla zibhanyabhanya lamapolisa ndathi ndifuna umntwana.
Miss Gladys is a Katlehong resident in the Sikosana section. She lost her child during the political violence in the East Rand. Upon hearing about the shooting of young people, she went to the local hospital to find out more.
Ndakhawuleza ndawutsho le apho kubhaliswa khona. Tenda benifika apho kubhaliswa khona ndafike ndabuza phaa efestilini uba akho mntwana ufikileyo napha udutyuleyo. Kwathiwa ukhona. Kubani igama balitsho igama lakhe ngumabhuti.
Later, the doctors told her what caused his son's death.
Bathi babethile ngezibhambi ezingalweni uphuke nengalo bemtyisela ngezinja apha ematapileni lamabhulu. Ezinjana ndizibona phaa eveni ukuthi zayizizonyana. Into nabafuna bafuna ukutshayisisa ngalanda kanti ufuna uqwalasela kanti bamlashe phaa ngasemva nezinja. Ezitha zamtya amatapile ke ngoku. Kwaze ubonakala ibhrukhwe inqabile uba iqhubuke lapha ematapileni. Imuphule nengalo ke ngoku umdubule esibinjini. Kwaba ke ngoku hamba ngolo hlobo umntwana wami. Nabandingena ke ngolo hlobo ku-TRC.
One of the victims, Rifilwe from Davidton, was shot by members of the Defence Force at school.
Ke dipeng tsa 1985 tsa di riot sa mo Davidton ke tswa sekolong Masole that time na go bitsiwa ke apartheid ba le ba re kreya ko Masole le maphodisa ba re kreya ko Katlego secondary ke kena form 1 and whenever maybe it's okay grade 8 Bartunya.
Refilwe says during the riots she was fleeing with other school children when she got injured.
Nele skolo and then rena go di classeng ke ro bona le ko skolong batho ba tswa ba tshaba and then wa tshaba and then Masole a thunya fela kere so ya kopana le rena mo re kopanang teng ke ka mogodi le ndang kreya teng ge ke tloa.
She now lives with pellet bullets in her body.
Kare ke ntwe ke phelang ka yona mo mmeleng anke le re ha iyo mo mmeleng meno mo mmeleng ka ofela maoto matsogo na go ngwa tsoga rurugile maoto na go ngwa tsoga rurugile wa bona dilo tseo ena se tswe ya sepetlele ba tla botsa re ha ba bone next ena ba bontsha x-ray ke gona ba makala ene x-ray ya teng ha e tswe ko sepetlele kere tshantse ye ko private ko patela bokae.
Ms. Siawela is a member of the Khulumani support group based in Thokoza. Here, the victims and survivors of apartheid meet regularly for group healing.
Go 99. That tukulelo abantwana bam ababi. Intombi yaye yam ingumkhwenyana wayo. Ababulawa kunye kanye ngelanga elinye. Babakhupha endlini bababulala.
She lost 2 of her children just 5 years into the democratic dispensation. She says their crime was to change political affiliation.
Mna ndandisemsebenzini phuma emsebenzini xa ndifika nje wabona bebehlala eMandela ndabona kufika omnye umfazi ethi ndiyafuneka eMandela mna yintoni akachaza athi hayi nxiba mama yombatha siya ndithi mna abantwana bam kutheni wathi mandombathe xa siya nyani ndafika indoda ilele ngapha umntana elele ngapha lo mncinci encanci bele pha.
Although her loss was many years ago, the pain is still fresh.
Oh, indifilisa kabuhlungu gqithi kangaba ndithi xa unawuphinda kuliwe ngoku ndingagoduka ndimke gulu kodwa andinandlu ndiphelele kulo mkhukhu andinanto phelele kulo mkhukhu.
Well, quite an interesting insert there that really speaks to the heart of today's celebration, the celebration around freedom, but also many stories that have not been told as yet. Actually, remembering a conversation that I had with the Minister of Defense at Mamwini Matikizela Mandela's memorial service, where she spoke about this issue around telling our stories, telling our experiences as a black nation, and quite specifically those who were impacted during the struggle against apartheid. And beautiful insert there by Tumiso Mashaba, as well as Dennis Setlane, who is from Lihlo La Sechaba, who did some of those interviews. But here's something quite important as well, is remember the 1950s Group Areas Act, and I saw that earlier on in Morning Live they were running an insert of a documentary that looks at the Group Areas Act of 1950s rather, and how it had an impact on the community of District 9 in Cape Town. And it's a discussion that I started off with the Minister of Arts and Culture, who's running today's program here, and this is what he had to say. Just take a listen.
Well, those are the constant reminders whenever we talk about them and whenever we look back of how the oppressive racist regime used particular instruments to ensure that they dehumanize the African majority. So it's part and parcel of what the capturing of the beachhead in 1994 was about. Was about the majority taking charge of the political power in this country. And we've seen that after 2 decades, we've got to accelerate moving to the second phase of the struggle, as it were. And you would know that as the theme captures it, that the year of Nelson Mandela towards a full realization of freedom through radical socio-economic transformation. What that means in simple terms is that we have reached that point in our history, which we knew about even during the struggle for liberation, that political power alone can never be enough, can never change the situation and the status quo. So that is why radical socio-economic, because here we are now talking about ownership, we are talking about the patterns, we are talking about changing the system. And if you are going to do that, it means a thorough going process is being embarked upon, and that will cause some fissures as we move forward. But one of the source for the economic development in this country is land, of course. The other would be education and relevant skills for the economy in the country.
Actually, before we chat about that second phase of the transition, when it came to the first phase of the transition, and this is attaining, of course, a political freedom where each and every South African who was of the age, who could vote at the time, got the ability to vote. But the days leading up to that event, that was quite strenuous.
It was the resemblance of what the machinations of apartheid have been about. Because you would remember they planted in the minds of the people that there was something called black on black violence. Basically having the machinations of apartheid, using our own people through various means, Stratcom is one of them, to derail their own freedom and make them to believe that by derailing their own freedom is for the good of the majority, which is a farce, basically. But just 12 months before that, the assassination of Comrade Chris Hani, which signified the deep-seated hatred among some people of what was coming, and that is freedom for everybody. That is doing away with dehumanizing the majority of the people. So it was strenuous, and a lot of lives were lost. In fact, even just after our freedom, you still experience that kind of violence. But all of them scientifically have been proven that it has been the hand of the apartheid government which perpetuated this self-hate amongst African people.
And for instance, when you look at the Avia beer at the time, the bombings that were carried out, and even the year before that, during the CODESA talks as well, them storming the World Trade Center.
Well, you know, change is pain to some people, and they feared change so much so that they thought that they were going to do something to derail it. The storming of World Trade Center quite clearly was an antithesis of what the country was moving towards. The country was moving towards two warring factions coming together and talking about their own country. From different perspectives, of course. But there were those who were saying that if you have one person, one vote in South Africa, you are going to obliterate the white society, which was a scarecrow. It's something which happened in the past with the Rooi Gevaar, with the liberation movement, Africans Gevaar and so on. But all those didn't succeed. We are where we are today, where we're saying that 1994 was the building blocks for a better life for all in South Africa, which saw massive change of mindset from a government point of view. A government understanding that it has a task of meeting the basic needs of the people. It has a task of changing materially the lives of people. Nobody can argue against that today, that lives of our people have qualitatively changed over the past 2 decades. Without anything, one of the most important achievements of our freedom is the fact that people have their voice. The majority have their voice, have their dignity. The stripping of the dignity of the majority of people of South Africa was one of the most heinous crime against our people.
I wonder then, Minister, why is it that, 24 years on since we've had that incident, since we've now attained our democracy, that we're still having these discussions around how people are being stripped of their dignity? And I'm going to put you to, I'm going to point you to one case in point right now, where the MEC for Education in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, was met by two white men who had a doll, a human-sized doll hanging from a tree with his face on, and saying that Panyaza Lesufi is quote-unquote raping Afrikaans.
Well, such indignity, we experience it. And the people who are at the receiving end will continue to receive that. The people who are at the receiving end are those who are faced with these dangers on an ongoing basis. Remember that when South Africa voted for freedom, those who advocated apartheid did not perish. What we are experiencing in South Africa today is racism without racists having to show their face, and everybody saying, no, we love New South Africa, we love Mandela, all of us, and so on, but in action doing something opposite. Our task is to continue focusing the nation in building a socially coherent society, because those are the spoilers. Our agenda cannot be dictated to by themselves. We have to deal with them as we move forward, because they want a situation, as the AWB and others were doing in the past, they want a situation where there will be an issue, that our real issues of economic freedom, our real issues of ensuring better life for our people get distracted in the process. We are not going to be distracted. We'll deal with them as we go. Those who are racist in our country, we have said that, and we have encouraged our people to be intolerant of such. And through government's own regulation processes, we will ensure that the Momberg's example is part and parcel of what is happening in our country.
Just in closing, Minister, and speaking about the issue of Afrikaans, we're actually in a province where you have the University of the Free State. The Constitutional Court recently handed down judgment in December where it spoke about the policy of the University of the Free State, that there's absolutely nothing wrong with the university deciding to use English as the main language of instructions instead of having two parallel structures where you have Afrikaans and English. And this was something that was fought by AfriForum, saying that no, that Afrikaans must remain in the university as another language of instruction.
Well, if you want to define who you are, and if you want to know how people feel about themselves, touch the language. What I can say there is that we have our courts. Our courts are these, the arbiters and the interpreters of our own constitution and the laws of the land. And if it comes to an end to the Constitutional Court, that's it. But the point we want to make is that the task of this government is to further develop other official languages, including some languages which are not necessarily official. But the situation, what you have just said, underlined the point that the development of Afrikaans and English over a period of time has seen these being dominant in our society, which then says to us, we need to do more in ensuring that we deepen the development of other languages. We are doing that in other instances. We have, for instance, a research arm for these other languages. And we are saying that should, extend to other languages so that they also get the respect, because as long as we don't emphasize on that, people will think that South Africa only have English and Afrikaans, which is not true.
We have, 9 other languages?
9 other languages, and over and above that, the Constitution recognizes other spoken languages in South Africa, which are not necessarily official languages.
Well, very important there what the minister said about developing other languages as well, and this is something that has been fought by various pressure groups, including the likes of SASCO, a student organization, that's saying that other languages must also be introduced as a medium of instruction, and it must not only be English and Afrikaans. It will only be for the benefit of all South Africans that you have the various other indigenous languages being adopted as mediums of instructions, whether it is at a school level or even at the university. So it's very important to ensure that those languages are indeed developed. And quite important and interesting hearing what the minister had to say there about racism, saying that what the country is experiencing now is racism without racist, seeing the number of incidents and racist attacks that we've seen on social media as it stands at the moment. Well, we're still here at the stadium where the Freedom Day celebrations will be kicking off around about 11 o'clock. That's when the official program will start. We'll have the 21 gun salute and the guard of honor, as the president will be standing on the podium right behind me. As you can see that the grandstand at the moment as well. The grandstand filling up as people are making their way here to the stadium, a 20,000 seater stadium. At the moment, mostly students, children, school children who are here. I see that the ANC Women's League is also here. Part of their members are also part of today's celebration. Just spotted the mayor of the city of Mangaung. She's also arrived. She's also expected to give some sort of address just before the president takes to the podium and deliver the keynote address. You know, as I have been saying throughout, that it will be quite interesting to hear what the president has to say about Freedom Day, about those days leading up to Freedom Day, and what the minister was saying as well, the issues around the violence and the pushback that was there during that time. The Avia BS, if you remember, who stormed the World Trade Center at the time when there were negotiations at CODESA, also bombings that took place. Actually, the AWVA leader, Eugene Terblanche, testifying at the TRC and admitting that he was behind the attacks that were taking place just days before the election day on the 27th of April 1994, where around 21 people were killed, and of course a number of people were convicted for those murders that took place at the time. I see that the mayor is still busy with an interview, but as soon as she's finished, we'll try and speak to her about today's event and the importance as well about today's event. But quite importantly would be some of the issues that were raised in that insert earlier on that has been put together by Ukhatebe here in the Free State. Members of these communities here in the Free State raising issues around Freedom Day, saying that while we celebrate Freedom Day, they can't really say that freedom has been attained to its full potential, considering that they still have issues around the supply of water, and of course, as we've seen on the grandstands as well, the issue around employment and ensuring that people do find job opportunities. But as I said earlier on, that the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, has made a promise at the youth symposium, where he said that it is possible to create 500,000 jobs each year, and whether indeed that will be attained will be something that we need to watch quite closely. For now, it's back to you guys in studio, and as I said, as soon as the mayor is available to speak to us, we'll speak to the mayor. Oh, I understand that we're going to a commercial break. Let's go to that commercial break and we'll continue with our coverage of Freedom Day.